Deregulation and intervention continue to be the talk of the town, especially since Donald Trump took office. And as the Heritage Foundation has it, only 5 of the 180 countries graded are economically free. Well, it just so happens that where we are, Hong Kong comes in at the top of that list for the umpteenth time. Singapore in a close second. New Zealand completes the trifecta in third. 4 out of the 5 in the top come from the Asia Pacific. In the 23rd edition of the Index of Economic Freedom, countries were graded according to 12 different criteria, including regulatory efficiency and the openness of their markets. So here we go. Let's speak to the founder of the Washington think tank, Dr. Edwin Feulner of the Heritage Foundation, joins us exclusively from Washington, D.C. Dr. Feulner, it's a pleasure to catch up with you and good to see you. I have to say that, number one, I'm proud that our city here in Hong Kong ranks number 1, and the bells of freedom ring loud and clear once again. But, I'd also tell you, as somebody who's been here nearly 3 decades, I think we're getting less and less free. These candidates for chief executive who are running in this next election, they're talking about, a lot of them are talking about more social welfare spending. The old finance secretary is talking about upwards of getting 2/3 of people in welfare housing. This kind of talk is anathema here, don't you think?
Oh, man, Bernie, we got to fight that. We believe in the free society. We believe in choice for people. That's what we're all about. And that's my sincere congratulations to all my friends in Hong Kong for number 1 for the 23rd year in a row.
Yeah. How long can we hang on to that, the way things are going, though? The way populist politics have been rearing the last few years. You've seen the pictures. You've read all the both sides of the arguments. Ed, there's a populist, almost nationalistic movement here. Not that we can be a nation since we're part of China, but some people are still deluded to that end.
It's the real challenge that both your government and your very vigorous private sector have to deal with all the time, Bernie. And it's been a real tribute again to your leadership throughout the whole country, really, that you've done so well. I should also point out, really, that China improved its own status from number 130 to 111, which is a pretty big leap and a good sign for what's happening across the border.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Do you think that China, because, China is going to define a lot of what goes on in Asia in the next decade, next century, can China actually lift itself up from 111 to actually being somewhere within contention? Do you see it, in our lifetimes being, say, a top 25, a top dozen?
Well, I hope before I pass this mortal coil that we'll see it in the top 50 anyway. But the higher up it goes, the tougher the competition gets. There aren't many countries really vying for number 180 down there with North Korea. But there is a lot more competition the better you get and the freer you get. And there has been real progress on the other side of the border across in China. And we'll just hope that it'll continue in that very positive fashion. I'll be in Beijing in 2 weeks' time. I'll be talking to some folks out there and be very interested in terms of what they say and how they see it.
Right. Ed, you're right there at the epicenter of big changes going on in Washington, and everybody, for even the freest economies around the world, from here in Hong Kong and Singapore on through the list, we're watching for the lead from what's going on over there. The United States has always been out of the top 10 since you and I started talking, gosh, decades ago. Is that about to change with the new environment? You're making history in American politics. Is it going to become a better place for people, for economic freedom?
For economic freedom, for opportunity for the individual, and that's what our whole Index of Economic Freedom is about. It's not just comparing one country to another. It's about where an individual has the most opportunity to grow and to prosper and to do better. And the United States, unfortunately, in this most recent Index of Economic Freedom actually fell from number 11 to number 17. Now our data goes through June 30th of last year, so that's pretty clearly a reflection on the Obama administration. By this June 30, with our new president and the rate at which he is operating, I think we're going to see a great improvement. I hope we will see a great improvement in terms of where the United States will be next year.
Right. Ed, what about the rest of Asia? I mean, Singapore and Hong Kong for quite a long time now have been playing catch-up and vying for #1 position. Overall, as you scan the landscape, as you look across Asia, do you like what you see? Do you see more principles of economic freedom being adopted, or do you see more interventionist, more Keynesian governments in formation with each year that passes?
The traditional tigers that we think about back here in Washington, in addition, obviously, to Hong Kong and Singapore, but Taiwan, South Korea are both doing a little bit better this year. Japan's doing well, and I think the focus, Bernie, from this new administration is going to be very heavily on Asia. No, there won't be a TPP, not under those terms and not with that kind of a nomenclature, but I think President Trump showed very strongly his commitment to a close relationship for the U.S. in Asia when he hosted Prime Minister Abe from Japan over the last few days. It's very clear that this is front and center in terms of his thinking, in terms of where the United States has to be positioned well. And so I'm very optimistic about that. Other countries inside Asia are generally doing better than they have been in the past. And for that, we congratulate all of them and remind them that we like to think of this as a competition to do better and to provide more freedom to the individuals in the countries all around the region.
Right. Dr. Feulner, I'd like to part ways with you today on this thought. Even though we celebrate economic freedom in many parts of the world, the disturbing and shocking fact is the number of people around the world lacking from economic freedom remains disturbingly high. By your reckoning, still at 4.5 billion people. Are we improving? Is the United States going to be able to take the lead in the next 4 years to bring that number down and make freedom happen?
We are going to work at it very vigorously, Bernie, and we do it basically by setting up the moral standard to which hopefully others can aspire. We're not going to be out there trying to save the world or change the world one country at a time. Those days, I think, are over for the United States. But in terms of how to set a higher standard and encourage people to do the right thing and to provide those opportunities for individuals, that's what we're going to be about with this new administration.
Dr. Feulner, pleasure talking to you. We'll see you in these parts, hopefully when you make your way over to these parts very soon. Dr. Edwin Feulner, founder of Heritage Foundation, Washington.